Welcome back, Sports on the Fly. Ian Sachs, Johnny Diaz. Sports on the Fly meets off the bounce, right?
Yeah.
Off the bounce, all basketball, all the time today. And Johnny, uh, playoffs right around the corner. Just about 3 games left in the season, it looks like, for most teams. And, this is such an exciting time of year. March Madness just finished up, NBA regular season coming to a close, playoffs just around the corner. And let's start in the Eastern Conference, look at some potential first round matchups, look at, who we like to get in and everything. Now, 5 teams in the East have clinched playoff berths. And really, to me, it looks like it's those 5 and then the rest in the East because there is a huge drop off after the Washington Wizards at the 5 seed. You go Milwaukee right now sitting 6, Boston sitting 7, Brooklyn sitting 8, a half game ahead of Indiana, a game ahead of Miami, and about 3 games ahead of Charlotte. So Charlotte's going to need a lot of work to get in. Probably not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But looking at this, it looks like Milwaukee should get it.
Yeah.
They're 2 games ahead of Boston, 2.5 ahead of Indiana. They really just need to win one and they're in.
Yeah.
Boston and Brooklyn right now are tied. So really, it's going to be Boston, Brooklyn, Indiana, Miami. Those 4 teams to get in, to get out. Who do you like to get in first, and then we'll look at some matchups later on.
I wouldn't want Boston to go in at 7 because they're too young. You know what I'm saying? They still need time to adapt with each other still, and with they just don't. Ever since Rajon Rondo had left, I feel like their game has changed a little bit. And when they lost Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, so all those great players. I mean, it's time for them to rebuild. So if they make the playoffs, hey, but I see them losing against Cleveland if they stay on the
You're
7th
listening
spot.
to WI.
So it's like I wouldn't want to have Boston or Brooklyn. I don't think Brooklyn deserves to be in the playoffs. I would like to see Indiana come back since Paul George is back. Maybe something can change, in there. Miami, I mean, Miami didn't have a great season after losing LeBron, and then Chris Bosh, out for a season. Who knows? Maybe can he make an appearance? We don't know. So, I mean, I would rather see Miami and Indiana filling those spots instead of having Boston and Brooklyn.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I want to see Indiana in there.
Yeah.
I think the return of Paul George has given that team such a new dynamic, and they're right on the cusp of the playoffs. They get in. Paul George plays at a high level. They could be a problem for the whichever team they match up with, and I think that would be a great first round matchup. Could you imagine if Indiana gets in, gets the 7 seed, matches up with Cleveland? LeBron going up against Indiana,
Yeah.
the battles that he had with them in the playoffs when he was with the Heat were epic.
Yes.
So I think I would love to see Indiana in the playoffs. Then let's say Indiana gets in and they're the 8 seed. Then they match up with the Atlanta Hawks, who are, kind of inexperienced for the playoffs. Indiana's battle tested, could see an upset there.
Yeah.
So I think Indiana would be great
Yes.
to get into the playoffs.
Yes.
Miami, I'm kind of tired of them. They don't have LeBron.
Yeah.
So okay, fine. That'd be a great story if it's Wade and Bosh leading the team into the playoffs without LeBron now. But with Bosh out injured, I just don't. I'm tired of seeing Miami in the playoffs. now I know that it's an entirely different team from the last few years. Of course, LeBron being a big absence, but no Chris Bosh. it just wouldn't really do anything for me.
Yeah.
Now, the Celtics, you touched on their mass exodus from the last few years. You don't have to remind me. I was a Celtics fan with all of them, and now it's painful to admit it. But I kind of I like the way Brad Stevens is leading that team and really restructuring that franchise where now they're a bunch of young players and they're going to be good in a few years. They're going to be really good.
Yeah.
And with the amount of draft picks that they have upcoming,
true.
the Boston Celtics are going to be a team to watch out for. Now, look, this year it's not going to be pretty if they get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's not. But I think that if the players that they do have can get a little playoff experience, it's not going to be much. It's going to be 4, maybe 5, maybe 6 games at most. But still, it's playoff basketball.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that. And Brooklyn, if they're able to salvage this season and still make the playoffs, I kind of like that. I think Brook Lopez has, without a doubt, been the most consistent player there.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. You take Brook Lopez off of that team, they look like the New York Knicks, which is not a compliment. So, but if you put me on the spot and said which 2 teams do I want to see, definitely Indiana, and I think Boston. I think I like the return of the Celtics here. Now, Johnny, all right, so let's go playoff matchups. It looks like right now the Chicago. We're gonna skip Atlanta and Cleveland because we don't know who they're going to play.
Yeah.
Probably it looks like the Bulls will match up with the Bucks in the first round in the 3-6.
Mm-hmm.
I give the Bulls a pretty easy trip there to the second round.
Yeah. I really do like this matchup. And because since Derrick Rose has came back, it's not something that he has to prepare to strike right away. This gives him some more time to relax, get him to get his feet back in the water again, and hopefully he stays in the water and just staying positive, you know what I'm saying? Because he's gone through so many injuries. It's like, and he's also one of my favorite players, that's one player that I like to watch, and him seeing him getting hurt really hurts the fans. It's because he's so big in Chicago. It's like, he's from Chicago. He wants to get that ring. And if he wants to do it, I think this is the season to do it. And this is something that I brought out last year with David Lowry. I said, the only way the Bulls can be successful is that if Derrick Rose stays healthy. If he doesn't stay healthy, they won't get that championship because they need a point guard that can control that team. And don't get me wrong, Aaron Brooks is a great point guard, but he doesn't fit that role the way Derrick Rose handles the team.
No, you're right there that the Bulls can only go so far with Aaron Brooks. And when you look at it, you look at the 1 year that Derrick Rose missed most of the season due to injury, and the Bulls still got the top seed in the Eastern Conference. And come playoff time, they struggled.
Yeah,
they struggled mightily.
Yeah.
And you say, wow, look at Chicago. They were able to mend together a season and claim the 1 seed.
Yeah.
How are they struggling so much in the playoffs? It's because they don't have the superstar in Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
You saw there how vital he is to the team's success in the postseason. The 1 year that he was healthy for them in the playoffs, they go to the Eastern Conference Finals. So you really have to look at how great of an impact Derrick Rose has.
Yeah.
So I actually like that this isn't such a tough matchup in the first round. So yeah, give him it gets him back to adjusting to playoff basketball.
Yeah, getting him back into the rhythm, and it's very important to have your superstar be comfortable.
Yeah.
Instead of wanting him to play reckless, and that's what his problem is, and that's how he keeps on getting injured, is that he plays reckless. And that's why I admire Derrick Rose's game and I admire Stephen Curry's game, but Stephen Curry had ankle problems and he switched the way he played a little bit. I mean, he had the playing ability of, okay, yeah, he knows his best weapon is shooting threes. Derrick Rose's best weapon is a drive in, but don't do it reckless. Do it basic. Don't do it where you're dunking, doing windmills, where you know you have bad knees, you know? So it's like Curry is like an old man's game. You know what I'm saying? Like he's aware of the things he can't do. He focuses what he can do. You know what I'm saying?
Look at the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah.
5 years ago, they're done. They're washed up. 2 finals appearances since then, 1 more championship, and everyone's saying, even though they're probably going to be around the 6th seed in the Western Conference, they're the favorites to come out of the West. Think about that. Because they know what they can do, and they don't try to get away from that. They don't try to be something they're not.
Yep.
They know what they're good at. Everyone has a certain role. This one does that. This one does that. Boom. It works. It works. So I think, yes, Derrick Rose has to be aware of what he can do, what he should do, what he shouldn't do. But anyway, we're almost out of time here. Let's hop over to the very interesting Western Conference. We've got 7 teams all locked in, clinched their tickets to the postseason. Just 1 more spot left, and that is the 8th seed. Right now in a tie at 42 and 36, the New Orleans Pelicans and the Oklahoma City Thunder. This is a matchup of 2 teams that are riding on one superstar right now.
Yeah.
You have Russell Westbrook for Oklahoma City, and you have Anthony Davis for New Orleans. Now, Johnny, who do you want to see get into the playoffs?
I would like to see Oklahoma to fill that spot. And I would love to see that because if it's Golden State versus the Thunder, it's Russell Westbrook against Stephen Curry. Now, that would be a great matchup. That would be a great series to watch. I think that's going to be a tough way for Golden State to get out, you know. And Golden State is 3-1 against New Orleans, you know. And with Thunder, I don't know if it's tied. I believe it might be tied because I remember Oklahoma City beat them a while back. But I think that would be a great matchup because it's MVP, you know, MVP point guards going against each other.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
When I posed the question to you about 30 seconds ago, I was thinking to myself, you know, I like Oklahoma City somewhat. I like Russell Westbrook a lot, but I just love Anthony Davis. Yeah. I love the way that he has resurrected that franchise, and really, 2008 they were relevant back when they had Chris Paul.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. We're looking 7 years ago was the last time that New Orleans basketball was really good.
Yeah.
And so just the job that Anthony Davis has done leading that team, it is something really fun to see this year.
Yeah.
And I would love to see the new Pelicans get into the playoffs, and I think that if the Pelicans do, they could be very much like the 2010 Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
Getting in as the 8th seed, matching up with a veteran, experienced number 1 seed. For the Thunder back then, it was the Lakers coming off of their championship and on their way to their 2nd straight title. But they gave them problems.
Yeah.
That was a 6-game series that the Lakers escaped with a win there.
Yeah.
And, that was really the mark of, okay, the Thunder are here to stay. And I think that if the Pelicans can make their way into the playoffs, they could have that statement series this year and say, you know what, we're in the playoffs and we're going to be in the playoffs for years to come.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned, I hadn't given it that much thought. But when you mentioned that it would be Stephen Curry versus Russell Westbrook, probably the two favorites to win MVP.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be a great matchup.
Yeah.
That would be an absolute great matchup. I mean, yeah, you're talking two of the top 5 players in the league squaring off in the first round.
And who knows? Maybe Kevin Durant can join them back in the playoffs.
And there's the return that I alluded to earlier. Kevin Durant making an appearance if the Thunder get into the playoffs. I think that with that possibility, just it would be such a fun and exciting series that any game it could be the dynamic could change completely when you bring in the reigning MVP.
Yeah. And who has a possible to become the new MVP? Russell Westbrook. He has a chance,
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you look at almost any other year, Russell Westbrook probably could win the MVP with the numbers that he put up this year.
Yeah.
It's just that the emergence of Stephen Curry happened at the same time.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of a lot? And I'm going to the NFL. When Michael Vick came back with the Eagles and he had that outstanding year, but Tom Brady won MVP that year, this is the same situation. The way Stephon Curry's having a great year, and then after All-Star break, you have Russell Westbrook getting these triple doubles. You know what I'm saying? Like this reminds me of the same situation. And now it's very hard to choose who's gonna take it. So.
No, you're right. I mean, it's unfortunate that one of them is not going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so unfortunate. But anyway, Johnny, it has been a great NBA season. It's been a great hour here with you.
Thank you.
We can do this blend anytime you would like. Fridays at noon. This door is open. You're always welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sports on the Fly, Off the Bounce, The Blend. Ian Sachs, Johnny Diaz. Have a good weekend, everybody.
You're listening to WICR